All right, we are in Genesis chapter 1, and now we are in verse 2. So we covered a whole verse yesterday. Now the earth was formless and empty, or most of the translations of the older ones, formless and void. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. The earth was formless and empty. Now, that strikes us as maybe a little bit odd in our thought process. How could it be formless and empty? But I think the idea is basically just that God had not structured this earth the way that we understand it now, that there was a process by which he did this. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the deep, of course, just means the ocean or the water. And so the idea in mind would be like an earth that was totally encased in water, a water planet, as it were. So there was land, but it was under the water. And then it said the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. That verb hovering, describes what a bird might do, a dove might do, right? And so we see already here the Spirit of God symbolizing the activity of the dove that he would later become more directly associated with in the Gospels. So, in the beginning, God creates the heaven and the earth. He creates them out of nothing, creates them ex nihilo, and then he begins the process of forming this creation to be what he wants it. And the focus is going to be on the earth and the heavenly bodies in relationship to the earth, and in particular to the people on the earth. So this doesn't mean necessarily that there wasn't a sun or a moon or stars or anything like that. It just means as the author is formulating this, he wants us to understand first that God's the author of everything, that he himself is not within this physical universe. He brought it into being. He doesn't have a body. He's not made of matter. He made matter. And then God has purposed something about the structure of this world. And that purpose is going to find fulfillment in the last part of the chapter when he creates mankind as his image. So the main thing to keep in mind here, again, is this a scientific process? The main thing to keep in mind is that the author wants us to get that God created the heavens and the earth by himself. This is the God we're worshiping, and he did it for a reason. There is a purpose for it. And the structure then that he's going to go into is related to that purpose. Now, in particular, that phrase was formless and empty, or formless and void. We're told in Isaiah, I forget which chapter, that he did not want or create the earth to be formless and empty or formless and void. That wasn't his desire for it. And so this is the starting point for him making it into something different. And how does he do that? Well, again, formless and empty. You're going to see how then the rest of the creation narrative is structured around how God brings form and fullness to the creation. So the first 3 days are going to be about God forming things, and the next 3 days about his filling things. So the problem, or not the problem, but the challenge that God is addressing is that the creation is, or the earth, is without form and it's without content. It's without what it should have. And so the structure of the 3 days, or the 6 days then, 3 days of filling and 3 days of forming. And we'll have to keep that in mind as we work through this. All right, that's probably enough for today. Maybe one just thought here to meditate upon. What God does, he does for a purpose. Creation is not here by accident. It wasn't because God was bored. It wasn't because he was lonely. He's not. He never was. Rather, there is a purpose by which he is creating everything and bringing it about. He is the creator, but he's the creator with purpose. And God is going to structure then the creation that we have with us, anyway, that we interact with according to that purpose. And we're going to see that later on. But maybe the take home for us today then is this. All that God does, he does with a good purpose. Nothing is by accident. Nothing is without his providence and his skill. And in particular, in my own life, he has created this for a purpose because I am part of his good creation. And I'm a special part because I am made in his image. That's one thing to keep in mind as I live this day. I'm not here by accident. I'm not here just to get ahead, to collect my treasures and pleasures. I have a purpose that God has created me for. And my goal then is to understand that purpose more fully, especially as it relates to today, and live it out more fully as well.